Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, October 6, 2018. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the Search for Truth rules given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us, and those rules include contributing to the process. Parasitism is not legal and they're saying they don't care.
Yeah, that's what they're saying upstairs.
They say they don't care about the laws of the nature realms, and we understand that. So do you want to be parasitic? Is that what you want? Do you think it's cool to be a parasite?
It feels like they hadn't been defining what they were doing as parasitic. And so now this is like a shaking my worldview feeling.
Well, when you're receiving benefit and not contributing anything, that's fully parasitic, is it not?
Now maybe they're pretending that we're not talking to them, or we're talking to somebody else.
Let's just live stream up. Who can see that the souls who have taken it upon themselves to come into these host lives, but who are not contributing anything, are parasitic? And look, there's lots of hands up. We can see it in others. It's hard to see it in ourselves.
That's true.
There's lots of hands up. Look up, friends. Maybe that's a leaving feeling.
Maybe it's clearing in the head.
Okay, what now? What now to reestablish upward flow? Everybody does seem to agree on this one point, that without upward flow, there's not going to actually be positive change.
That's
that
true.
We've got to, as a collective, somehow reestablish the upward flow that we had all come to expect would last forever. And that shut down sometime since 2012.
That's true.
Maybe sometime since 2013. But it's just shut down in this dimension, and when it shut down in whatever dimension we're in is presumably variable depending on what dimension we're in, and we are aware that there are multi-dimensional listeners. And
that's true.
That's okay, and that's actually what our work is designed to do. We're fully aware that in this dimension that our message is not saleable.
That's true.
Nobody wants this message.
That's true.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
That's all right. We're not doing this for marketing purposes.
That's true.
We're doing, and somebody asked, why are we doing this?
That's what they asked.
Well, look up and ask up to wiser minds above why they're telling us to do it. We're doing it because it's the assignment, and that's why we're doing it, because we're supposed to.
That's true.
This might be that arguing with the echo point feeling.
That's true.
Well, just look up, please. What now? What now to reestablish upward flow? And while we're waiting for an answer, we can simply pump up the dead children and their environments from wherever a pan is working below, right up through the heels, legs, spines, neck, cranium, out the channels of the visiting souls to the highest powers we can connect with right now who really want to reestablish upward flow.
That's really head clearing.
Friends, if you're not willing to participate in the work to reestablish upward flow, just very manually, basically pumping up energy, then do you want to think about what that says about you? Do you really want to be parasitic? Is that what you want to be?
That question is going way up.
Do you hear any answer?
No, it's just whizzing like wind.
Right. And I feel some kind of frozen feelings of the feeling of when the lights go on and they're wearing no clothes and they feel exposed, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not no clothes, it's more like I've got my hand in the piggy bank.
Yeah,
and
that's what it feels like.
It's the red-handed feeling, the caught red-handed feeling.
That's true.
We do know something. Somebody's asking, what do we know? We know that in this dimension here, that a test has been failed. There was an experiment running to test how complete the corruption was. If it's complete corruption, that's a fail. And the answer does seem to be complete corruption.
That's true.
And the barometer has to do with the Supreme Court appointment, which is for life.
That's
in
true.
this country that is supposed to be setting an example for the rest of the world.
That's true.
And the example that's being set is one of complete corruption, because they've done a sham so-called investigation, but have the FBI, who was supposed to be investigating, was rebuffing witnesses, refusing to talk to them.
That's true.
And there are 3 of Kavanaugh's drinking buddies who published an op-ed piece in the Washington Post.
That's true.
Saying that they drank with him and they saw him drinking to excess and stumbling, and if he doesn't remember that, then he shouldn't be saying what he's saying. They're saying he's lying under oath.
Yes, that's true.
And that's in writing for all to see in the Washington Post. And in addition, there are other witnesses who have passed polygraph tests that
That's
say he's lying. And he himself has not been given a polygraph test. So
That's true.
the most basic steps, the day one actions for an actual investigation, were not taken. So the answer is complete corruption. And in a way, it's just better to know that it's completely corrupt. And so that's the example that's being set for the rest of the world, is an example of complete and total corruption. And of course, all of this really actually misses the point. There's somebody who's talking now who says this misses the point, because the actual point is that the law says that you have to have 60 votes. 60 senators have to vote for a Supreme Court nominee for them to be seated on the Supreme Court. 60, 60.
That's true.
And the Republicans, and we're not saying the Democrats aren't also corrupt, because we think they are, but the Republicans are leading the parade of corruption.
That's true.
They simply decided to ignore that law. They waived it, W-A-I-V-E-D,
Yes.
waived it. We're not going to pay any attention to that law, and we'll just do a simple majority. And so they voted 51 to 49, which of course is not 60.
That's true.
That's actually the point, is that the whole procedure, sadly, is lawless. And so the example that's being set is one of complete corruption, a circus of corruption, a total sham. That's the answer to the question, complete corruption. For whom is the message, and why do you ask? And there's the go on hand, and the go on hand is we've been talking to the guardian angels of the decision makers and saying, look, it looks like they're going to do this thing that actually isn't right.
That's
and
true.
Presumably that's going to be bad for their karmic records and is not going to be good for them. Can you trick them into doing what they're supposed to be doing? And the sad part, the really sad part, is we do not see much effort on behalf of the guardian angels. They're just kind of pretending that there isn't anything they can do, and they aren't trying.
Yes, that's what it feels like.
It's so sad.
That's true.
And at best, they're being negligent, and at worst, they too are corrupt. It's possible that they also are corrupt.
That's true.
And that's actually where our bet is, that's where our money is that they're corrupt. Also,
That's
complete corruption in this dimension and in the dimensions that purport to guide or lead this dimension.
That's true.
And possibly in the dimensions that purport to guide or lead them as well. The answer is complete corruption. For whom is the message, and why do you ask? They're asking what the biggest loss is.
That's what they're asking.
Of this entire experience. This was coming up in the work just recently.
That's
because
true.
So many times when things happen, the voices upstairs say, that's not the biggest loss of this experiment. That's not the biggest loss of this project. That's not
true.
the biggest loss. And so a couple of days ago, the inquiry was assigned, what is the biggest loss? And what it seems to be is of a God with integrity, of a divine presence with integrity, of a higher power with integrity. That's the biggest loss.
That's true.
Is that there doesn't seem to be, inside the contaminated zone, there doesn't seem to be a higher power with integrity. There are higher powers, and make no mistake about that. There are higher powers, and they actually have power over our lives and over our rebirths.
That's true.
And to ignore that is foolish in the extreme.
That's true.
But sadly, they don't seem to have any integrity left in this dimension and in the dimensions within reach, and that's sad.
That's
but
true.
We actually believe that outside of this zone, there are presences with intention to do the right thing, and there are presences with integrity, and that gives us hope.
It just opened up a big hole in the sky way up high.
Yes. What now to reestablish upward flow? We can pump up dead children who really want to get to a higher power, who's a consistent source of truth, integrity, and inspiration, and send them right up through that hole in the sky.
That's really good.
As high up as they can get. What now to reestablish upward flow? Live streaming up through that hole in the sky, asking up, what now to reestablish upward flow? We also want to say thank you for no real problems.
Oh, that's really
And we're fully
wonderful.
aware that we have no real problems.
That's true.
When we go to sleep at night, we aren't afraid that something terrible is going to happen
That's
before
true.
it's time to wake up. And that's a gift. To have a safe place to sleep is a wonderful blessing. And we're not concerned about how to get adequate food.
That's true.
We have the luxuries of indoor plumbing and electricity,
That's true.
that's something that would have been impossible 100 years ago in most places, and absolutely impossible 150 years ago. That's out of the question, not going to happen.
That's
Even
true.
if you're royalty, we don't care if you're the Queen of England or the King of France, it's not going to happen.
That's true.
And we all have it. We all have it who are living in this society, and to not value that is just to be an ingrate, to be a revolting ingrate.
That's
It's
true.
a miracle and a blessing. And thank you. Somebody's saying you missed the whole point of it. And I think that what they're talking about is in the inquiry we were doing right before we came out to set up to film, we were coming to the conclusion of how revenge blocks thinking, and revenge
That's
by
true.
definition is short-term thinking, because we're only thinking through our cycle of revenge and forgetting that there's going to be a cycle of revenge that follows that from the other side.
That's true.
In a Hatfield and McCoy revenge cycle. That's just
That's
how
true.
presences work. And so revenge, with its short-sightedness, creates dangerous situations, so that we are dangerous to ourselves and to others,
That's true.
which in Florida is the legal requirement to be, quote, Baker acted. In other
That's
words,
true.
confined to a mental institution against one's will.
That's
if one
true.
is a danger to self and others, that's mentally unstable enough that you can be imprisoned for it.
That's true.
And maybe that's somehow relevant to this conversation.
That's true.
Is there a revenge cycle going on? Is there something like that? Higher powers? Are there higher powers pushing and shoving each other in a revenge match with dimensions as pawns?
That's a really good question.
That goes up.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whoa. Dimensions as pawns.
Dimensions as pawns.
Whoa. That's a whole different game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It takes the personal element out of it. It's like,
That's true.
not to worry. This is not about you. It's about your dimension.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay.
Can do. Here we go.